75 years. Ito po ang Presidential Broadcast Service. Pakinggan, panoorin, agaran in real time, o balikan sa pag-scroll up and down. Mga balitang dapat malaman, impormasyong tunay at napakikinabangan. Saan ka man, sa buong kapuluan. Mababangon sa bagong sigla. Kababayan, kasama ang social media. Powered broadcaster ng bagong mamamayan. Tapat sa pag-uulat. Ito po ang Presidential Broadcast Service sa Metro Manila. Radyo Pilipinas 1, 738 AM.
Oras sa buong Pilipinas, 4 na minuto makalipas ang alas 3 ng hapon. Magandang hapon po sa inyong lahat at welcome po tayo sa ating programang Kalinga Hatid ng Red Cross dito po sa Radyo Pilipinas. Ngayon pong linggo, ika-20 ng Oktubre 2024. At kamusta po ang bawat isa sa inyo? At inaanyayahan namin kayo na subaybayan ang ating programa ng alas 4 po tayo ng hapon at 66 days more to go before Christmas. Yes. At tayo po ay live na napapanood sa Kalinga Hatid Facebook page at sa Radyo Pilipinas Facebook page. Paki-like and share po. Sana mag-comment din po kayo kung may mga nais po kayong mga katanungan at mga ilang inquiries. Tayo din po ay napapanood sa Affordabox at Digibox Channel 43 to 45. At tayo rin po ay napapakinggan live sa ating Radyo Pilipinas 738 kHz. At syempre, nais nating pasalamatan ng bumubuo nitong ating programa. 18 years na po tayong sumasahimpapawid. Syempre, ang ating Secretary ng Presidential Communication Office, Dr. Cesar Chavez, ang ating Director ng Presidential Broadcasting Service, si Sir Fernando Dindo Amparo, at ang ating station manager Sir Alan Alanige, Sir Maki at si Sir Ray Sampang, sa technical side Orly Lopez at si Ma'am Joy Timidan. Okay? At sa ating sa Philippine Red Cross, ang ating Chairman and CEO Richard J. Gordon, kasama ng ating Vice Chairperson Governor Corazon Alma de Leon, at kasama ang iba pang Board of Governors at ang ating Secretary General Dr. Gwen Pang, kasama ng ibang Board of Directors at mga chapter administrators sa mahigit 100 chapters natin nationwide. Okay? Kasama riyan yung mga Red Cross Youth natin at Red Cross 143 volunteers. At special ang ating talakayan ngayon dahil talaga nga namang pinaunlakan tayo ng ating bisita. Yan ay papakilala maya-maya, pero una sa lahat, makakasama natin via Zoom ang ating Governor Corazon Alma de Leon, ang ating Vice Chairperson. Magandang hapon po, Gob.
Yes, magandang hapon. I am pleased to welcome ang guest natin, si Heidi Emilia Fagerlund, Operations Delegate, International Federation of Red Cross and Red Crescent Societies. We're very fortunate that she found the time to be with us on a Sunday afternoon, and it's a privilege for us to have you in our radio program, which, as mentioned, had been ongoing for the past more than 18 years.
Yes, ma'am.
So we'd like to start by asking you, can you tell us a short background information about you, and when did you start reporting as the Operations Delegate of the IFRC here in the Philippines? Go ahead. May I call you Emilia or Heidi?
Emilia.
Yes, please. Yes. Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Ma'am Corazon and Edison. Thank
Good
you so much for having me. It's an absolute pleasure to be part of this radio show that has such a long history. So thank you so much for inviting me. You may call me Emilia. That's the name I'm most familiar with.
Yes. But what is your task here in the Philippines as a because it says here operations delegate. So maybe you can describe what do you operate as a operation delegate. Go ahead.
Sure. Thank you for the question. So I've been based here in the Philippines for about a year now. And I work as operations delegate. That means I support Philippine Red Cross in emergency operations and also anticipatory. So that means that I support PRC in accessing funds and technical support from the IFRC. Usually that is in the form of IFRC DREF, so Disaster Response Emergency Fund. And then in terms of anticipatory action, our aim is to act in anticipation of a hazard. When we know that a hazard is impending, we want to support communities to prepare themselves better. So those are some of the areas that I focus on here.
Well said.
Yeah.
Well said. And I think very important for those listening over in our radio program, what the reason why you are here. But maybe a more recent and cogent question is, how long are you staying here in the Philippines? Because you've thus far only a year since you arrived, correct? Go ahead.
Yes. Yes,
How
that's
long are
correct.
likely you're staying here?
I'm staying for at least another year. And I'm seconded by Finnish Red Cross. So my position is a contribution from one of your sister national societies, from Finnish Red Cross, to support PRC's emergency operations and anticipatory action, also overall disaster risk reduction. So for now, at least another year, but then we don't know what the
can be
future
more.
holds.
Yes, yes, of course. But of course, it's very important that you have visited any disaster affected areas since you arrived. Have you visited any of the areas affected already by disasters in the Philippines?
Yes, I've had the pleasure and privilege to visit a lot of areas where PRC is working across the country. I'm none in the immediate aftermath, not in the immediate aftermath when the disaster has just stricken the community, because that is when PRC colleagues, chapter volunteers and staff are busy responding. So that's when my position is supporting NHQ from the office, and that's important that we give the staff in the field the peace and the time to do their work. So I've visited a lot of areas. Albay was the first chapter and province which I visited last year because of Mount Mayon operation that we had there. I've visited Cebu, Bohol because of Typhoon Odette response, that where we supported PRC. More recently, some areas in Mindanao, Davao de Oro, Davao del Norte, and also Northern Luzon, Ilocos Norte, Cagayan, Palawan also. In the west. I've been so fortunate to visit a lot of areas since I arrived here. I'm probably forgetting some chapters and provinces already.
In this short space of time that you have been here, you visited quite a lot, no? And you're right that you don't immediately go to the areas when they're operating in a particular disaster, because you have to actually, to my mind, see how it's going and what else needs to be done, because you support the areas where maybe we're lacking in the PRC and for which we need IFRC support. But what particular project, other than the disaster, did you see operating? Being undertaken, which to your mind is significant for Philippines. Do you recall your visit that that you that impressed you or left a mark with you? It's usually like, even I, when I go abroad, I immediately think of, wow, it's a wonderful thing to see I think many of the places you've seen are some of the also the touristy areas that we have. Go
Yeah.
ahead, Emilia.
Thank you so much. I think with every visit, I've just been very impressed with the resilience and commitment of our colleagues on the ground. And because of the focus of my position, I've visited only areas where we've had an emergency operation. So I haven't had the chance yet to visit any of the longer term programming where we support PRC. So always in the context of a disaster, and this is one of the things we always joke about when I meet PRC chapters on the ground, that it's always in this terrible situation that you come and visit. Next time you need to come in peacetime. So hopefully I'll get that chance. But if I want to mention one example. So earlier this year, we at IFRC, we supported Philippine Red Cross in responding to the flooding and landslide that took place in Mindanao, in Davao region. And I visited that area a few times. And that was actually the first operation for me where I really stood by Philippine Red Cross colleagues, and where I walked the walk with them. So the first operation that I coordinated together with PRC, and it was very impressive to see how people on the ground were responding to the situation, and jointly we managed to reach 26,000 individuals during the course of that 6-month
Yeah.
operation.
Mm. Yeah. Well, in that kind of operation, where the magnitude is such, it will take some time before they really be able to complete the operation. In disaster affected areas, I believe that the Red Cross has to utilize a lot of volunteers, and of course, funds are needed to be able to do that. I think that we have been successful in many of these areas precisely because of the mobilization of volunteers, which we call 143 volunteers. Did you have a chance to uh, meet some of these volunteers?
Yes, absolutely. So every chapter I've visited, I always make the point to talk to our volunteers. And RC 143 is a fantastic initiative of the Philippine Red Cross, really a great way of strengthening disaster resilience at the local level. And it's a great example of showing the added value of Red Cross. So I think, when I eventually leave the Philippines, this is one of the examples that I'm going to be talking about overseas as a very good practice from Philippine Red Cross.
Well, I think it's very important to recognize that volunteerism is one aspect. We already have what we call bayanihan. Bayanihan is actually being a hero in your community by rendering volunteer service. And of course, I cannot claim that we have it has been perfected already. It's an ongoing project. It's an ongoing initiative, and we feel there is much more to be done. And the continuity of the volunteers or the volunteerism in the community is very, very important. No, but I guess we're so hung up on invite asking you a lot of things about what you experience here. But maybe our listeners are interested. Who is Heidi Emilia Fagerland? In other words, where you come from, and of course, how did you get to be involved in the IFRC and in your own whatever country you are from. Maybe you should describe so that those people who do not know where your country is will know. Go ahead, Emilia.
Thank you. Absolutely. Thank you, Ma'am Corazon. Yes, so I am originally from Finland, so from far away, from Northern Europe. Very different context and society compared to the Philippines, of course. So, like probably a lot of our listeners today, I have a strong national society background from my own Red Cross national society, which is Finnish Red Cross. I actually started my path in the Red Cross Red Crescent movement through volunteering. So I started as a volunteer at a branch level, and then slowly I made my way up to national headquarters of Finnish Red Cross, where I worked approximately 10 years on disaster management, especially focusing on migration and displacement. And then after that, I worked for a couple of other organizations, such as International Organization for Migration on the UN side of the humanitarian response. And with IFRC, I'm fairly new. I started last year only. So my experience with IFRC is only 1.5 years. Yeah, it's short. It's short. So when I have my perspective is always as someone who comes from the national society, so I can really relate to some of the challenges that Philippine Red Cross is also facing. There are so many similarities between Red Cross national societies across the world, even though we're in different contexts, different culture, working with different set of disasters, different hazards, but you'd be amazed that you can always find a lot of
But you know,
similarities.
your name Emilia is already a brand name in the Philippines. Many Filipino women, are also named Emilia. And sometimes the shortcut is Emily. Sometimes the nickname. But on a personal note, I want to share with you that I have been to Finland on a different capacity. Specifically, I think there's a place there, but Helsinki is definitely the capital. And many of you know that the 1952 Miss Universe, Army Kusela, came from the Finland and married a Filipino millionaire. But but I think the husband died already, and I think Army Kusela returned to Finland, and I don't know what happened to her, if she's still alive, if she, I don't know, likely not, because she became Miss Philippines, I think in the 50s, so long time. But that's already outside of our focus of discussion, because in your experience, no, what lessons did you note, or what lessons did you learn in how we are dealing with disasters and calamities? Because we have what we call the baranganic approach, where the people in the community are called barangays, and we try to understand how the barangays operate, so that they themselves can manage their own disaster, um, because of the training that we provide. And therefore it becomes a challenge, I think, for a program coordinator like you, to see how it evolves. How do you find the participation of the community in manning disaster operations? Because we cannot certainly depend on outsiders to come do it, and we have to depend on those who live in the community and are part of the community, and yet they were the ones affected. So they're hamstrung with doing the work of even volunteering if they themselves were affected. So I think, Emilia, you have seen the challenge that are encountered by Philippine Red Cross in dealing with disasters in their areas. Even if we have volunteers, they cannot operate. So we have to rely on other areas to assist. How did you find our volunteers in the areas that you have visited? Do they come forward and say proud that they are volunteers? Go ahead, Emilia.
Thank you. I found Philippine Red Cross volunteers as some of the most inspiring people that I've met in my career so far. Absolutely resilient and dedicated individuals. And I know that a lot of colleagues work 24/7. So yeah, big heads up and a big thank you for all the great work that you're doing and your commitment. It's absolutely inspirational for someone like me who is from far away and supporting you kind of behind the scenes. Yeah, absolutely resilient. And maybe one of the things that also strikes me, if I now compare Philippine Red Cross with my own national society, Finnish Red Cross, is that here in the Philippines, a lot of our staff and volunteers are very young people, which is amazing. Back home, it's the other way around. So most of our volunteers are older
Seniors.
people, who
Yes.
have retired, because after retirement, they have time to devote their resources, their time to the community. And Finnish Red Cross is making great efforts in trying to mobilize and recruit younger volunteers. So I think they have a lot to learn from PRC in that regard. So I've been very, very impressed meeting young volunteers, young staff who, despite their young age, have a wealth of experience and who are so committed. That is something that's very inspiring to me.
Yeah. Well, of course, in comparison, in terms of population, Finland is much smaller than the Philippines in so far as population, and therefore the mobilization will be different in a country like Finland as opposed to a country like the Philippines. But what I have seen is also the strength of the character of the Finnish people, I guess, to use the word, to finish what they need to do. Whereas maybe in the Philippines, because of the vastness of the areas, we have what geographically isolated areas. And of course, I did not see that in Finland, but like in other Scandinavian countries, quite developed in comparison with of course our country, where we have 7,100 islands or more, and likely you have not seen them all. When of course before you leave, I hope you will see some of the interesting areas other than those visited by disasters, because sometimes what happens is that you're only able to visit those areas because they are areas of difficulties, and therefore make them vulnerable. But I think that you should also be able to see the areas which may not have been visited by typhoons or disasters, but need to be seen and visited, because they represent also our people in the far-flung areas. But maybe it's time to have a break, because I'm sure there will be people listening and watching the program who may have some questions. Edison,
Yes, ma'am.
go ahead. Take a break.
We post for a few commercial
Minutes.
break, and we're going to be right back.
Tutukan ang pagsasanib puwersa para sa pinakakomprehensibong newscast ng bayan. Balitang Pambansa sa pamumuno ng Presidential Communications Office. Ihahatid ang pinakamalakas at pinakamalawak na pag-uulat mula sa buong communications group ng pamahalaan. Philippine Information Agency, Presidential Broadcast Service, IBC, Philippine News Agency, at ang inyong People's Television. Isang boses, isang balita, nagkakaisa. Balitang Pambansa. Magsisimula na ngayong Lunes at masusubaybayan sa lahat ng himpilan ng TV at radyo at digital portals ng buong communications group ng pamahalaan.
Nilagdaan na ni Pangulong Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. ang Self-Reliant Defense Posture Revitalization Act na may layuning mas palakasin pa ang kakayahan ng ating bansa pagdating sa depensa.
This law goes beyond the development of weapons or equipment, as it seeks to create a framework that makes us less dependent, more resilient, better prepared. It is a commitment to a long-term growth trajectory for a national defense industry that will support the defense requirements of our country. It's a logical move forward for a country that finds itself at the fulcrum of geopolitical shifts and volatilities.
Dagdag ng Pangulo, nakasad rin sa batas nito ang pagbuo ng maayos na sistema ng research and development at pagtutulungan ng sandatahang lakas at iba't ibang sektor.
The challenges we face today go far beyond traditional conflicts, and the need to develop technologies that will counter unconventional threats is more crucial than ever. With this act, we are broadening our perspective on defense. We are not just looking at tanks and rifles. We are building capacities that address these unconventional dangers head-on. This means developing systems and strategies that are reactive and predictive, allowing us to stay a step ahead of those who wish harm to the Philippines.
Para sa iba pang mga balita at impormasyon, manatiling nakatutok. Tapat sa pag-uulat, Radyo, Pilipinas.
Mas pinaagang balitaan. Abangan. Dito sa Presidential Broadcast Service, Radyo Pilipinas, 738 AM.
Okay, nagbabalik po tayo sa ating programang Kalinga Hatid ng Red Cross sa Radyo Pilipinas. At sa pangalawang bahagdan ng ating programa, nais lang natin na ibigay itong ating balita. Tayo po ay kasalukuyang nagkakaroon ng bloodletting, mass blood donation dyan sa may City of Malabon University. Yan po ay sa pangunguna po ng kanilang chapter chairman na si Federico Ricky Sandoval at kanilang administrator si Ma'am Julie Legaspi. Yan, daan-daang mga estudyante ng City of Malabon University ang nagboluntaryong nag-donate ng dugo ngayong araw upang punan ng araw-araw na pangangailangan sa blood supply at target nila makalikom ng 300 na units ng dugo. Ito ay sa kalimang pagkakataon, sila ay nagsagawa ng mass blood donation dyan sa may auditorium ng City of Malabon University. Siyempre kasama ang kanilang chapter chairman at administrator Julie Legaspi at ang chairman nilang si Federico Ricky Sandoval. At sabi nila, karagdagang supply para sa mga kadalasan na nangangailangan ng dugo sa Philippine Red Cross ang layunin ng isinagawang blood donation, lalo na sa mga nanganganak, nagdadialysis o operahan at kasama na yung mga may kaso ng dengue. Pinasalamatan naman ni PRC Malabon City Chapter Chairman Ricky Sandoval ang pamunuan ng City of Malabon University. Yan po ay sa pangunguna ng kanilang presidente na si Dr. Glenn B. De Leon. At na ito daw ay bukas ang kanilang eskwelahan pagdating sa mga ganitong programa na makapagligtas ng buhay at pagtataguyod ng volunteerismo o kusang loob at kapwa-tao. At kahapon din po tayo ay nagkaroon ng health caravan at blood donation diyan po sa may Caloocan, Barangay 12, Caloocan City. Katuwang po natin ng Philippine Red Cross Caloocan City Chapter. At syempre kasama natin dyan ang RMN Foundation sa pangalawang pagkakataon. Kasama natin sila sa pagsasagawa nitong health caravan at yung kanilang himpilan na DCXL News. At syempre yan ay sa kanilang anibersaryo. At maraming salamat sa mga nakikiisa sa mga programa at aktibidad at events ng Philippine Red Cross. Back to you, Gob Cora.
Yes, thank you very much for sharing that information. I want to congratulate the Malabon chapter, particularly the chairman, because I know him, I met him,
Yes.
and also the wife, who is also
Current mayor.
I think the mayor, yeah. Maybe
Malabon
we
City.
can get back to Emilia, and I hope Malabon is a nice area for you also to be accessible,
Yes.
and they have a nice food. It's called pancit. Native pancit, no? So perhaps you'll be able to taste that. But going back to your role, what are your experiences in dealing with different disasters and calamities in other countries? Or is this the first time you are doing this as operations delegate of IFRC?
Thank you for the question. I can share some experiences from my previous duty station, which was in Bangladesh
Yes.
last year, in Cox's Bazar, close to the border of Myanmar and Bangladesh, where Bangladesh Red Crescent Society, together with IFRC, is responding to the needs of, I guess by now already roughly 1 million displaced individuals of Myanmar origin. I had the privilege to work there for 5 months last year, and our listeners probably are familiar with this context because especially some years ago, the Rohingya response and crisis got a lot of media attention. And by now the situation is protracted. There is sadly no durable solution on site for these individuals, but what we see is future generations who are, children are born in the camp and raised up in the camp. All they know is the camp environment. They've never lived a life outside of the camp. So very, very challenging context where we supported our brothers and sisters from Bangladesh Red Crescent Society. But this is a good example of the kind of last mile work that the Red Cross is doing. Many of the other organizations there have had their funds decreased, but because of Bangladesh Red Crescent Society, just as Philippine Red Cross, it's auxiliary to the government. So
Yes.
they need to still be there. They were there before, they were there during, and they will be there after. So that was a very powerful example for me and an experience, and I learned so much from it.
Okay. Of all the areas that you have visited, what impressed you the most? In other words, it left a mark in your experience that, wow, it's quite different. It's either difficult or more challenging. Can you name some of the areas you visited that you're amazed at how the people coped with the disasters that they had to face?
Yeah. Well, I think the example that I just spoke about left a mark on me, because the situation is seemingly very hopeless, but then again, people everywhere, people are
Smiling.
resilient. Yeah, we are resilient, and people find ways. Life doesn't end even amidst a disaster or a conflict. Life continues, find ways. Babies are being born. People get married. Yeah, like it doesn't end, whatever happens. And that's, I think, across the different places that I visited and different disaster contexts, that's something that never ceases to amaze me, that life finds a way. And then the resilience of people and how communities have coping mechanisms. They know what to do. They know how to deal with very difficult situations and how to put themselves back on their feet. So often our role in the Red Cross is to support what the communities are already doing, right? And to talk to them to find solutions to their problems, because the communities, they know best.
More recently, there has been a huge conference, Asian conference on disaster management at the PICC, and a number of Red Crossers attended that. But maybe that's the same challenge that you encounter as program coordinator of IFRC, because there are different kinds of disasters, but it's the coping mechanism that must be noted in terms of how successful the particular operation was, because of the skills and the capacity of the people to work together to be able to address the problems that they face. And I think, yes, you have noted in the Philippines, a number of volunteers, community volunteers, uh, find themselves operating at any given time when there are disasters. Can you comment about what you have found in the areas where you really found the volunteers flourishing in those areas? Do you recall any experience that you were amazed at the kind of volunteers that they had?
Mm. Oh, I think that has really been my experience everywhere in every single chapter, like I described earlier. I do know that volunteers are on call 24/7 and work very hard, and they are often the first responders because volunteers are part of the community and they are also affected if something happens. So I'm afraid I cannot name any specific example because it's just everywhere. It's
Yes.
just everywhere. And the spirit of Red Cross volunteers is something that is very inspirational. It's a very special commitment, I think, that we have in the movement.
It is also noteworthy to mention when I see the foreign delegates coming to our country and working with so much passion, so much interest to know the country. I'm also amazed because we who are in the Philippine Red Cross feel how can they leave their country and come here and work as if it is nothing. It just extremely ordinary in a way, not so special. But I do believe that you offer a kind of experience, you offer a kind of spirit to the Filipinos to see they you can leave your own countries or areas of concern and come back to the Philippines and see what we are doing, particularly in calamity areas. I can see that you probably appalled at the damages that have been wrought by whether a volcano or a typhoon. But I guess for us, it's just ordinary because we're the country that is visited by most typhoons and most disasters. And so I don't want to say it's nothing, but I feel that we have to, as you said, to be resilient because even though we suffer from those disasters, we bounce back. We return to normalcy as much as possible. And so I hope that you will not see any more greater storms than what have passed, but see the capacity of the people to overcome such disasters. But of course, we will be remiss in not getting to know Emilia in terms of I'm particularly interested. Where did you go to school? Who were your parents? And what about your family? Because the last portion of the interview is really getting to know the foreign volunteers in the Philippine Red Cross, particularly IFRC. Go ahead, Emilia. Tell us about yourself now. Uh, whether who your parents were or where you went to school, because our listeners would be interested. There's somebody who comes from Finland. The only Finnish people we remember is the Army Kusela. And of course, uh, other delegates who come here who come from Finland. Go ahead, Emilia.
Thank you. Yes. So I told you that I'm from Finland and we've discussed that, but I'm not from the capital. I'm from central parts of Finland, and that's where I went to school.
What's the name of the place?
It's going to be very difficult for you to pronounce,
Yeah.
but let's try. Yeah. The town is called Jyväskylä.
Minascula, whatever.
Yes. Oh, well done. You got it. Yes. So I went to school there. My parents and my two brothers, they still live there. I'm the only one from the family who has been crazy enough to go overseas.
Now you're not crazy. You are well intentioned, say the least. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that. Yeah. And so at an early age, I've always been a bit of I've been adventure minded. I've always been so curious about the world, other countries, languages, cultures. So I started studying different cultures, different languages, history of the world. And at an early age, I moved to Sweden where I went to university. So that was for me the first time I lived abroad all by myself. And then after that, through building my career, which has taken me to different parts of the world, for which I'm extremely grateful, it has built a kind of resilience also in me and a kind of autonomy, especially as a woman, that I can do this, I got this. I can cope on my own. So my family is there, and I also call some of my best friends as family, and this family I have across the world, so dispersed in different countries and continents, and they are all extremely grateful also for these opportunities that I've had during my career. Some of them do not always understand my career choices because it's not the most usual career that one can have, right?
Well,
It's a very special commitment, like you also described, that, I'm leaving my family, I'm leaving my loved ones to be here. But some of them, and I think slowly they're starting to understand me better and why I do this.
yeah. Well, on a personal note, I have been to some parts. I've been to Finland. I've been to um, Copenhagen, Denmark, and I've been to Sweden. So pretty much I have traveled in my capacity because I was former Department of Social Welfare Minister before I joined Red Cross, and I was also chairman of the Civil Service Commission. So I was in government 26 years, so a long time, actually 34 to count, and I'm already in my senior year, very senior years, but I still believe I can make a contribution to the Red Cross. And one way is really manning this particular radio program since many years ago, aware as I am that people need to know what Red Cross is doing to radio, to television, which they're now doing television, and I think that we will be remiss in our duty as Red Crossers if we don't share like what Edison shared the bloodletting in Malabon, because this is happening every day. There's some activities all over the country with, as I said, 7,000, more than 100 islands in the Philippines. And I do hope that before you leave, you'll be able to see more of our country, and hopefully I can also host you for a meal in my house to see what a Filipino, simple Filipino Sunday lunch is all about. Like today, it's a Sunday. We we can. I used to do that when I was Secretary General, and I feel I would like to do that again as I interview the people with IFRC, with ICRC, and hopefully in the coming months this will be possible. But before we end, I think it's very important for me to ask you describe what can you say about Philippine Red Cross before you knew it, now that you know it, and what can you say about the Philippine Red Cross now?
So before coming here, I already had the pleasure to work with colleagues who come from the Philippine Red
Yes.
Cross in Bangladesh. We have many Filipino colleagues there working in Cox's Bazar and in Dhaka, the capital, who have worked for PRC, and now they're overseas contributing to other disaster responses across the world. So I already had a bit of an idea about the culture, and how Filipinos are as a people. And I knew that Philippine Red Cross is a strong, well-renowned organization that has a strong legal basis also, and who is very close to their government and extremely well connected in that sense, not only with the government at the different levels, but also with other important stakeholders. And now that I've been here and worked alongside PRC, I know that all of this is very true, and I see how it plays out in our everyday work and in our operations. And I still maintain that PRC is strong. It's a well-respected, well-known organization in the Philippines, and I think this radio show is a wonderful example how, like you described, how you are talking about the work that you do. So you're being very accountable and transparent to your fellow Filipinos, really showing them where do our, their contributions, maybe their, the money that they've invested, the time that they've invested, where is that going to? So I think it's a very great example of transparency and community engagement and accountability that you're doing.
Yeah, thank you. Actually, I call it the three C's. We have to be accessible, we have to be answerable, and we also have to be accountable. Because every fund, because we don't receive any fund from government, and yet we have to be resilient in our fundraising efforts. We must be able to project how much money we need. Of course, there is assistance from the International Federation when disasters occur, and we have disaster funds, so to speak. But by and large, we have to be self-supporting. By and large, we need to make sure that we are ready to address the needs of our country, given with or without the support of the international organization. But your presence, particularly the delegates, will enable the other countries to see what Philippines is trying to do within the limits of its authority and its capacity. And I think that we have done well with the chairmanship of Chairman Gordon and with Dr. Gwen Pang as Secretary General. I too was Secretary General many years back, 2006 to 2009. And during that period, I felt that we need to develop people. We need to have very good partnership with different organizations to do our jobs well. And this is why I certainly look forward to having the delegates who come to be able to make sure that they leave the country with a good impression of the Philippines, with the feeling that they have served well because the opportunities were given well and we took care of the delegates. Because I wouldn't want the feeling that the delegates were not happy when they left because they were not taken care of. So I guess we have 5 more minutes. I guess my final question is, what will you remember the most of your experience here in the Philippines while still you're here? Because there might be other experiences while you're still here, but since the time you arrived, what impressed you the most? It's a difficult question maybe to answer, but within the limits that you will recall, what outstanding or unforgettable experience can you say about your stint actually as operations delegate in the Philippines?
It's really the Filipino hospitality and resilience, which we've already talked about, and you also described very well just now, because that is something that I've experienced from the start and benefited from. The way I was welcomed, the way local colleagues treat me, the way, they always want to make sure that I am well and I'm well taken care of. And the spirit at the local level also, like how resilient our communities are and the capacity to bounce back, and the innovative ideas and initiatives that communities take and can develop. Those are some of the things that have really amazed me. And then when it comes to the Filipino spirit, because you're very jolly people, you're very happy, very friendly people, very warm people. And I always say when I go back home and when I talk to family and friends that, we Europeans, we have so much to learn from the Filipinos in this respect. Like whatever happens, they always smile, and that, I think that helps you also to build your resilience, your confidence, your positive energy to face whatever challenges and difficulties life throws your way. And I think that's very admirable, very inspirational for us coming from other countries.
And for me, in hosting this program, I make it a point that we really invite all the foreign delegates so that we can hear what they have to say, because we cannot just be talking about with ourselves, among ourselves. And so it's really a pleasure, an opportunity, a rare opportunity to have all the foreign delegates who come and go to the Philippines, and impressions, and leave impressions. And hopefully they will leave with positive remembering. And so in final words, I would always say that we may not be able to change the world, but we can help understand the world through our program. So Edison,
Yes,
can
ma'am.
we end now?
Yes, ma'am. Get a final message from our guest, Ma'am
Final
Emilia.
message, Emilia, which is the request of Edison.
Sure. My final message is to all Philippine Red Cross staff and volunteers who might be listening to us and our conversation. I want to say that you are doing great. You are doing a fantastic job. Keep it up. Keep doing the great work that you're doing, and continue being a light in that shining bright light in your communities, especially those that are disaster affected or people who are going through a hard time. May you always be that light to them, and also may you be that light and inspiration to your family and your friends and others around you. Thank you so much for your great efforts and commitment.
Thank you as
Thank
well,
you very much.
because it's an opportunity for you to be interviewed and to be listened to by our chapters, 102 chapters all over the country. Some may not be able to hear it, but they can, as Edison will say, how they can access to the interview. Edison, go ahead.
Yes, I would like to thank everyone who tuned in for this program. And Gob Cora, can we ask for your final message for the program?
Well,
Uh-oh.
my final message is we cannot change the world by ourselves, but we can through the International Humanitarian Organization, Philippine Red Cross, the IFRC, the ICRC. We are all together in this effort to change the world.
Thank you very much, Gob Cora, and Ma'am Heidi Emilia Fagerlund, the Operations Delegate, International Federation of Red Cross and Red Crescent Societies. And that's it for our program this afternoon, October 20, 2024. At susunod na po ang pagbabalita, hatid ni Sir Albert Sebastian. At kasunod ng programa ni Vance Fernandez, ito po si Edison Enriquez. At maraming salamat din sa inyong pagsubaybay sa Kalinga hatid ng Red Cross dito po sa Radyo Pilipinas. 4 na minuto bago mag alas 4 ng hapon.
We know you're always on the go. Pero ang mahuli sa balita is always a big no-no.